All right, y'all, welcome to the channel. No counting this week. Okay, we're just gonna jump right in. Hopefully this thing will just work, but this weekly discussion is a breakdown of the past week's progress on the 7 Chakra Tiers Facebook group. If you're not in there, a lot of what I was coming out here onto the YouTube channel is derived out of this morning writings that I'm doing right now and posting to the 7 Chakra Tiers Facebook group. And for me, it's intended to kind of act as a baseline understanding that when I set an intention into the day, I can kind of have that at the forefront of my mind and bring that to then my life experience, so that every week, hopefully, I'm not holding myself to that standard just yet, because I'd really just prefer to have those that are interested in this be in the group, because it's better to have those things as a daily rather than a whole week. Because now I'm generalizing, but if I were to take away from anything this week, it's this in the personal power, right? Our core, the core of us, that solar plexus chakra area, the third root, sacral, then chakra, root, sacral, and then solar plexus. It's like elements of fire, right? So got a couple candles burning. We did a J.A.C.K meditation earlier this week, which is candle meditation. Just kind of observing this correlation between the personal power center, that fire within us, our gut instincts, and how that can also correlate with the third eye intuition. So we did that meditation but a couple days ago as well. But I do want to just jump over here and kind of introduce a frequency in that same vein as well for today. The third eye, we did it, it's 852 hertz. So today I'll be introducing a 528 hertz frequency. And so if you just give me a little moment to bring that in for us ever so slightly. And just understand that these frequencies are more just to kind of set a tone, as this is not a meditation. However, the words that are here, they can be utilized and received in that same thing, that same faculty. But thank you very much to Nature Healing Society for this copyright-free stress relief music. If you notice any differences here on my camera as well, my calendar blanket being taken off the back. I just put up a piece of art now as well. A little bit more simple, did some spring cleaning this week. Kind of getting back to basics in the hopes that we're kind of going to be moving to the end of winter. Nonetheless, as I digress, I just want to come back over and introduce you to the 7 Chakra Tiers Facebook group. And about 6 days ago, or rather 7 days this evening, I just did the video a little bit later last week than this. Our first post is to choice on Wednesday morning. Right, so today we choose to be or not to be. Ooh, Shakespeare. Ooh, that's interesting. And it's correlated here with this graphic. A secret to happiness is to be as weird as you like, and the wrong people will leave the party, but the right ones, well, they will join the dance. If you didn't watch the last week's discussion, it was in the vein of love, and one of my last writings for that week was to dance, to sing, to write. If I'm going to be all these things, why live in the definitions of them? I don't need to be a professional at everything that I choose to do. And that's the joy of life. So from wherever this actually came from, very naturally, just wrote here that either to be with the few, right? There's a few here, and then there's a whole mass here. At least that's how I perceive it. I could be wrong, and I have to be open to that. Maybe it's 50-50, but nonetheless, I wrote to be with the few, who may be daring enough to dance in the rain, embracing the stormy season, for the sake of inspiration and life experience. Am I going to be that kind of guy? Because when I see a storm outside, I don't see a bunch of people running through with or without umbrellas. We hunker down. We have this tendency to stay away. And obviously this is Western society, Western culture. Where you are in the world may be very different than it is for me. However, these few, they see themselves as set apart from the many who choose rather to cower from the simple joys of life. They are elemental by their nature and confident in their understanding of themselves, the looking within. Or to not to be, right? The opposite of the question. And instead be coddled in captivity, buoyant by the hot air of mass illusions of today. Perhaps continuously believing that it will all just work itself out, but choosing not to be involved in the solution, rather seeking comfort away from the storm. So if I'm going to choose, am I going to come into the vitality and energy centers of the earth? Like when a storm comes my way, am I going to embrace that storm, or am I going to be that person that just cowers away and waits for it to pass and kind of observes the fallout that comes of it? And that was a week ago on Wednesday. I did have a poll up and pretty even outcome there, so we'll take that into consideration. And then on our group's chats here in the meditation invitations this week, I haven't been as consistent myself in doing them, but I did do a spin-off of Meister Eckhart, a YouTube meditation, very contemplative. So that was inspired by this post that came about on Thursday. The quote reads, "The price of inaction is far greater than the cost of making a mistake." You know, that risk that is inherent in living life today, essentially. Why be that coddled person? Why sit in safety all the time? Now, there's a lot to be said on this front, I suppose, because a lot more words definitely came out. But when is taking no action better than making a mistake? And why are so many convinced that failure is not a worthwhile endeavor? I can agree that not making a situation worse is an ideal agenda. However, if it causes us to stay idle for too long, inevitably we will recognize a shift in our energy. This is, again, conjecture, my experience, but what I believe is a showcase of how this manifests. The most common early symptom might be subtle, but your laughter and smile may be diminished. Then perhaps feelings surface as though you are constantly waiting for something to occur, so a waiting inclination occurs. You'll be waiting for a moment that may never come. Speak truthfully, and furthermore, only find yourself hoping to fully understand the situation before actually making a seeming rushed decision or choice. But you do sense it from your gut. And finally, your heart may be hurt, and anxiety will be apparent throughout your body, this shaking. Retrogression is counterproductive, and silence kills and robs us of our personal power. This tendency to shrink away from the voice, the words, speaking up for ourselves, that robs us of that personal power center where we're at right now, 528 hertz frequency, solar plexus, core. So, in the event that we have been suffering in silence, this is what we can hope for, have faith in, hopefully. But immediately following a season of silence and inactivity, finally reestablish your foundation. I encourage you to finally reestablish your foundation and reaffirm your personal power. And do not be alarmed by the enormity of emotional energy that comes. It can be utilized positively for the next season. Like a flurry, now is the time to move forward, not wasting any of that extremely valuable stored up energy to failure. a safety net. We walk with safety nets everywhere we go. That's okay, to a degree. But when they go on and on and on for longer times, like no matter what, energy is being stored up. And that's kind of where, according to Kundalini, is a store up of energy that kind of results in the manifestation of sicknesses, illnesses, cancers, so on and so forth. This is how I've come to understand these chakra centers and the energy centers. It is delightful to experience the rather an alignment that frees me of the restrictions therein and inherent therein. Appreciate some other posts coming in from Praveen this week. There's some art I just recommend. There is a chakra art chat, so for those that want to just post a single image, it would be best to send those over there. Just as an aside, I shared Fia's she had like these 6 things, and just some good asides, I suppose. And then we came to Friday, and here silence is not empty. It is the loudest answer. Sometimes it's like just such a harsh reality to sit in silence. It feels so void of growth. Like, what could actually be happening if I'm just sitting here and nothing's occurring? Well, the deeper I've gone with my meditations from my personal experiences, that the listening isn't from some voice always, or ever, for me. I have my own voices, right, and a reaffirmation, those gut feelings. There's a conversation certainly happening, I suppose. However, what's more apparent to me when I'm meditating is when the physical plane really, I move beyond. There's a listening to this urge that inspires some sort of action that maybe I'm just not willing to make right now, but at least I can hear it and I can feel it and I can sense it a little bit more clearly on the other end of what I'm otherwise experiencing on the temporal plane in my day-to-day life and with my own eyes, with my touch, with the sensory that is inherent of my physical makeup, walking physically through this world. So I just wrote that all the words that make up sermons, books, eulogies, and beyond, they remain useless compared to the echoing of silence. In silence, I can listen to what I need to hear. In silence, the true value of a relationship becomes more clear. In silence, an awareness beyond the temporal world is perceivable. In silence, the distortions of my mind dissipate, and in its wake, I can preview the missing elements of my spirit. That feeling of a hole within me. That hole that only spirit can fill. Now, these answers that are inherent within this listening to silence, as crazy as that sounds, that space requires some action. And those actions, in turn, can create the largest ripples, as they are consummately beneficial to our spirit and not our ego. When we listen to silence, I believe that I can hear what's most beneficial to me in the long run, that can break me out of the mold of ego. I'm always going to be in some element of ego by way of life experience. So stay tuned. So again, we did that lower chakra focus meditation off of that one to kind of get back to roots, and it's about fear at the root to love at the top, right? Fear, love. They're opposites. Then again, thank you, Praveen. I can't read what it is, but I'm sure that we can move that into maybe a separate chat as well. But I appreciate seeing some interactions as well. And finally we come back, still staying in this personal power. I call back my energy and power from all corners, people, places, situations that have been draining, deceiving, and negative. Now, obviously, there's like such a build up here sometimes, and when I have a daily intention, it's just like it kind of has a mind of its own. I'm not necessarily inherently thinking about what I wrote the day before, but as I've been doing these breakdowns and kind of revisiting them over the course of 7 days, it is quite exhilarating, I suppose, to see this showcase of how this energy kind of moves in from day 1 to day 7. And almost like over the course of a week, and just over the course of this time perhaps of doing these daily writings, I've been able to kind of feel more inclined as though I'm in the middle. I'm in the flow of life. I'm going to turn down the frequency just a tear. Now, with that all said, right, I'm going to take it all back, like We always have this tendency, this like overarching thinking that just the singular moment's what matters, and just like, I'm going to take it all back and I'm going to live in this forever. Well, even though like that's where this is kind of stemming from, I kind of take pause in the writing of this one, if I'm remembering correctly. So as I take responsibility for habits that I have, my health, the way that I spend my time, and where my focus goes, my attention goes, these are the few observations that I can make today. There are certainly a great number of approaches to each of these, right? Those habits, health, time, energy, attention. However, just over long periods of time, they may culminate in disenchantment, the robbing of experience that are actually beneficial and joyful. So just because one of these circumstances, result of my habit, results of my health, and so on, just because it faltered, maybe an offense was taken, maybe it just got to a point where it just felt like there was so little to give or to take from another, those relationships that kind of fall out. This tends to lead to the creating a boundary, right? This boundary that I'm observing in the circle. Am I shrinking in to the nucleus of it? So sticking too closely here to any boundary, however, over long periods of time may culminate in disenchantment. What does that mean? I'm not here to shrink toward the fear aspect, to like build walls up around me to keep me away from this flow of energy that is inherent in life, right? I want to be in the flow of life. So it may not, any boundary we set, just realize here that does not always set us up for betterment. It does not mean it is a constant or eternal. Just because I'm setting a boundary right now with you does not intend that I'm slapping you across the face and I never want to speak to you again, kind of a thing. So I just want to recall here that in this writing, the energy does flow and is never stagnant, to encourage us to remain open to making returns to love. Even if it is just to test that water again, be willing to return to that current, that flow of emotional energy, water energy. Sinking again from that solar plexus, that personal power, that fire within, back lower to our creativity, the sacral chakra, more inclined to that water energy. And just to recognize that as currents do change for us, that we need to maintain and recall that they're also changing for others. So to currents changing. Sometimes we do need some time to ourselves or in a different flow of life to be re-inspired, reinvigorated, back to the things that matter most. I spend a little bit of time here in my own creative nature, and it's allowed me to go through this month of this month of February, like setting intentions on love and kind of passing through. But now as I'm beyond 21 days of daily writing, I have a new habit. I feel a new element of health. I feel that my focus is a little bit more clear. And because of these actions, I've been inspired to kind of move and showcase a lot more beneficial life experience than I had, let's say, in a little bit smaller circle, quite a bit of a smaller circle I was experiencing prior. So I did share some other stuff over from Cosmic Vibrations, just related to some meditation. Sometimes when we do meditations at the beginning, they're only felt physically. A little bit deeper, we can go to emotional self. Finally, we might be able to realize that like subtle energy, that fire energy I'm talking about now, here, that fire within us. But now, like over time, like the longer we stay in a meditative practice and move even beyond our higher self-guidance, we can finally become in that unified devotee, right, of a multi-dimensional body and really start experiencing meditation intuitively across plane, as though, even though you may not be here physically with me in my living room, in my house, even in this area whatsoever, that your energy contributes to the experience of us all. So I really liked this, and I just figured I'd forward that over. And as we kind of moving toward the latter end of the week, a couple days ago on Sunday, I came across this. The loop versus the spiral, right? The ego versus intuition, and how that can manifest. The idea here, simply put, is that the ego kind of keeps me bound around the cyclical nature of things, that samsara, that if I don't break out of certain things, then I expect the same experience to keep occurring. However, life's a little bit inevitable, so the ego is going to be disrupted either by some magnificent charge, or if I rather just lean in on intuition more regularly, that spiral is the better course of action, so that I'm constantly able to look at myself a year ago and maybe recognize that this is an ongoing evolution, and thank you with gratitude for the experience of the last couple years. So this is just a really cool graphic to write upon. Again, a lot more words were inspired here, I guess. I just wrote that by way of many years in survival mode, the ego has made a home in me, that comfortable space. So it is a comfortable space that rarely, if ever, gets disturbed. Here I might be found watching the same show, with the same old characters that never change. They don't even age, right? The bed may be always made and dishes are always done. I'll even eat the same foods or things and go to the same stores, watching the sunrise, sure, and even maybe the sunsets every single day, just appreciating the varying colorscape. However, I am eventually bored with this home, but I will not admit it for fear of seeming ungrateful. So it inspires very little in me to rise up and do anything beyond the ordinary. I realize that of 8 billion souls on this planet, I know nothing of but a handful of them, and even those few, it's likely true I know very little. So even when I see others coming back from their vacation speaking of grand adventures, I may sink, but not visibly, as it is only felt from within. I mustn't make much of it after all, appearances. I might even tell myself that my life is manageable. But then, one day, whomever and however you see God, the earth will shake. There will be no need to make the bed or do the dishes. Instead, it will be wrought with emotional energy. And everything that you thought was important will be turned upside down or even shattered, never to be replaced. Finally, others will actually need you, and hopefully you'll answer their call. But that's not intuition. That's just life. Live it. To intuition instead. Once we move to a certain plane of meditation and kind of move past the subtle body, move into the daily intuitions, as this is intended to work for me in writing and sharing and running this group, I hope that I can tap in more to those gut instincts and feelings within me so that I don't remain trapped by ego, that it inspires me to break out of that mold of conformity so that I can be skeptical and instead learn to trust my instincts, to trust my intuition, to allow that gap between my gut and my third eye to be activated and aligned. Through my heart center, through my throat, all of my sensories, and finally into being the reason I think as I think. Thinking of others first before myself. Answering their call. Sunday, we also then celebrated quite a few new members as we've just crossed over 250 new members. So thank you to all of you. Came across a few things, as NOC stands for Never Again Hate Anything. So there was this video by an anonymous team. Simply states that stop hate, we need love and unity. I just thought it was really cool and well orchestrated and a beautiful little example. I also inserted this, a discussion of the divine, if you're interested. Then again that night on Sunday, I was able to share and showcase that intuition meditation that can be found on the YouTube channel here as well. That was February 25th, Sunday night. So as we began Monday morning, I again throw something over from Cosmic Vibrations, a plug of course, but really great. Most of all, this is what captivated me. This macro to micro length scale is really kind of cool. But anyhow, just something that you can see if you come over here back to the group. Quite a big, interesting amount of information. And then out of nowhere, this kind of came to me Monday. And for whatever reason, it's landed much better than a lot of the other writings. I think it just felt more natural getting through Sunday and starting a new week. Even just coming from me, it just felt more natural this week so far in my writing. But also I usually end with stay tuned, so this is in the vein of staying hungry, where this graphic states that real wisdom does not come from being told what to think, it comes from a constant hunger to know the truth, right? So if I can't retain or maintain this like desire for understanding, deeper understandings, and just as opposed to that, like keep giving away my personal power, only listening to what other people tell me to do, like I'm sacrificing my personal power. So I just wrote, as fathers and mothers, educators, mentors, or social workers, first responders, doctors, or politicians, just as brothers and sisters, We will inevitably fail each other. We will find ourselves torn up after sharing our wisdom with each other, yet continuously witness another's suffering life. At best, we may pray in earnest that they too might develop a similar desire to pursue their passion and purpose, to unlock their fullest potential. We can even showcase the glory and grace and beauty of life daily. We can live to our fullest daily. We can learn to look within ourselves first and again, daily. And yet still we may never be satisfied by our effort. Then, one day, those we shared our life with, learned from, prayed for, and perhaps even saved, they will receive gut-wrenching notice of our passing. This is the inevitability of life. They will feel fully the inner joy of having known thus. Their recall of little things will boil to the surface in fits of high emotions and tears. Words, again, back to silence. Their words will vanish. And love will filter through even the most hardened hearts. Only then, on that day of dying, can we fully share the greatest truth. How we loved another. To a full life. Stay hungry. I just think it's beautiful. It's a bit morbid, and of course we don't want to have to wait for those things to actualize. However, it's more just to showcase that a bit. And then, of course, I came across something on my personal profile. I just decided to slightly edit and repost here. It's a poem I wrote 7 years ago, which is a significant number, 7. Anything I find that's 7 years ago, I, for some reason, really want to honor that, and so I did here. As showcases also that I have been writing for a while, and that even in my own devastations, waiting for the ends, no, I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm going to perpetuate my life, and that's what a lot of times my writing inspires within me. James Mallins wrote this quite amazing piece about not judging and other people by their own behaviors. I encourage you to follow him. He's a brilliant mind and very thoughtful. So pause the video here to read this, or go and find him and follow him as well. It's just amazing to read his reflections on the daily as well. And finally, we come to today, 9 hours ago this morning. My second day off from work. I just get this opportunity to wake up a little bit later than usual, and I hadn't even really gotten out of bed yet. I had been up and been in communication with a few. However, this just felt very appropriate for some reason. As I read this last night, some bridges are beautiful when they burn. My dad used to always tell me, stop burning all your bridges. And like, I always had this tenacity of just like, screw the, like, I'm not about what's happened in the past. I was always, wanting to thrive in the showcase of what I was intended to do in the future without like with a fury. I'm a fire Sagittarian, so like he didn't really understand that he's a fixed Leo. So even though we both had a fire within us, like that was his advice to me. Stop burning all of your bridges, which is actually good advice. But here, just to bring it full, what I've kind of learned also from my father, of course, is that there are certain bridges that need to be burned. No, I don't want to burn all the bridges here. It's not what this is about. I'm not here just for the spectacle. But I did write something here. So to get us started in the conclusion of this video, and again, thank you so much. Please consider liking, commenting, or subscribing, giving some feedback, whatever it is. Finding me on the Facebook group and following along for the 7 Chakra Tears, as these are daily writings to get us going. But just for a second, imagine that we were not able to make any choice for ourselves, and that everything we'd ever encountered in our lives had become a perpetual, ongoing, and constant cycle, that ego, right? That cycle. What if we were actually trapped by that ego? The question is, would you be stronger for it? Or upon consideration, do you too, just by the very thought of it, feel the weight of that reality? So instead, if you look back on your history in this world, the reality that has actually unfolded for you, which choices were more empowering to the experience of life? Were they in attaining some material possession, as the bigger house, the newer car, or whatever else comes to mind there? Or were they rather from the relationships that we chose to cultivate, such as our first friend or true love, or the decision to make and have children? So are we more well guided on this path of life by consequences, circumstances, or our relationships therein through the storms? So although this may be a jump here, a betrayal of trust may give way to a change in motivation, and an unexpected door is always appearing. So this is the gift of life unfolding. I encourage us here to close out this week, to not wade in the remorse, as regrets plague our conscious connecting to the flow of momentum that is ever present, that current, the changing currents. But if you must enjoy the spectacle of burning a bridge, then light a match and burn the ones that retain the walls built up around old emotional energy. What is it that's robbing that love from you? That experience, that thriving. Burn the bridge that holds you in captivity to your intuition, that's robbing you of your personal power. And let it burn. Celebrate in the awareness that anything is now possible when we cut ourselves off from a perpetuated and lingering past, letting go of long suffering to anything. So as we're kind of moving through this last stage of February and the last couple of days here of writing, it's a leap year, so I don't just get tomorrow to continue this. I also get that bonus day, that 29th of February. It comes along only once every 4 years to close out February. I'm very grateful to be able to do that this year, my first year doing this group. And then I'm going to work on whatever the intentions are going to be going into March. However, this is a weekly discussion, just allows me to kind of move away and through the next phase so that I too can kind of see what it is that as my experience is week in, week out. Where have I really robbed my personal power this week? Where can I allow myself to set a new boundary, but not perpetuate that boundary, break free from it, test the waters, allow not just my current to be changed, but allow the current to change for the others as well. And to observe that when I let go, as we're in Lent still, right? That letting go of the things that stand between me and God, that I can be more filled up. It's such a beautiful thing to observe this letting go of hate for me, and letting go of even some of the closest relationships I've had over the course of 2023, and to land more firmly here in this type of action for me in 2024, only by the end of February. For me personally, this has been a grand experience, and I encourage you not just to listen to what I have to say, but rather look at it as an opportunity or showcase that you too can do this. Pick up a journal. Pick up a pencil, start doing your art, start writing music, start playing your guitar. We got the root energy and the earth elements just to stay in safety and know that we're firmly planted on this earth. The second chakra then is that elemental of water, our creativity, divinity, relationship, giving away. Third here is sharing it from within our core as a fire center in our passion, so that we can move all the way through to love in receiving it and giving it away. So again, this is a weekly discussion breakout, and I appreciate the opportunity that you afford me to put these out here to showcase my writing skills on a daily basis, although there will be an ebb and flow to them. Things will change over the course of time. I hope this helps you, because it helps me, as one of my friends says constantly. It may not help you, but it certainly helps me. So we'll go ahead and conclude this video. Enjoy the rest of your week, and should it be, we'll see each other soon. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day. Peace be with you. Can't forget that.